Rahul Ishwar, the complaint is that Hindi is being imposed on the South. And this is going to lead to the withering of the identity of southern states that are linked to their local languages. How do you respond to this?
Rahul Shivshankarji, I'm a proud South Indian and I'm a proud Indian from South. But the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, rightly pointed out, he was a Gujarati, that we need a link language. And please remember, I love English, but Hindi to apni hai. Hindi is Hindi hamari hai. That means Hindi or Tamil or Telugu or Malayalam or Kannada or Northeast language or Marathi or Gujarati. These are all our languages. So we should have a sense of our apnapan. That apnapan is and I know to be a person, on personal experience, I have been welcomed, even though my Hindi is not great, I have been welcomed by a lot of Hindi channels and there is a lot of North-South connects. So we are Indians first, and a person like Mahatma Gandhi emphasized on Hindi. Let us not forget that. A person like Mahatma Gandhi emphasized on Hindi, and let language be a point of unity. I'm a proud Malayali, and please remember, one of the biggest Hindi hits is a dubbed Telugu movie called Bahubali or KTF. We are one at the end of the day. We are one people in one soul speaking many languages. So language should not be something to divide us. Hindi is definitely ours. We have Hindi and other 22 national languages, but Hindi has primacy because Hindi is our senior brother. Hindi is spoken widely. And Mahatma Gandhi sent his son to South India to propagate Hindi and Hindi Prachara Sabhas. So respecting that sensitivity of our father of the nation, I believe we should all encourage Hindi. Inspire Hindi, not impose Hindi, but inspire Hindi.
Okay, inspire Hindi. It's an indigenous language. Hindi is a senior language. Kasturi Shankar, respond, please.
I think I don't even know which point to disagree with and where to start. So, Rahul Ishwarji, not to belittle your patriotism, but I have a big problem with starting with linked languages. That's fine. If you want to talk to somebody in whatever language you want, it's between the two of you, whichever sides are communication. But that's where the buck ends. Language is for communication in a country like India, where each language has its own claim to greatness. It would be a grave injustice in the 21st century to earmark one language as above the others, as more dominant than the others. You cannot take numbers into question, because if, as our great Annadurai said, if popularity of speakers, if the number of speakers is taken into account as the criterion for greatness of a language, then the crow would be our national bird, not the peacock. So that is not an argument. Number two, as far as linked language is concerned, again, Mr. Annadurai, I quote, said, why do we need one linked language to talk to everybody else in the world and one more to talk to each other? एक दूसरे से बात करने के लिए एक और language. Why do we have to learn two languages? There should be one door for all, not one big door and a small door. That doesn't even make sense. I think it's very unfortunate that people don't recognize ground realities in this day and age. Once upon a time, there was an invader, a colonial power, and his imposed language was English. But today, the Russians speak English, the Ukrainians speak English. It's not England or the crown that is the reason for English being the global language. It's America and its supremacy that has made English the linked language. There are so many countries that end up having to, and Chinese maybe, Spanish maybe, but not Hindi. So we do need one language outside. Let me finish. Yeah, I'm as proud an Indian as you are. So let me finish. What I'm trying to say here is there is no kami to patriotism. I am not any less patriotic than you are if I say that India cannot be, India की पहचान, भारत की पहचान एक जुबान से नहीं होगा. एक जुबान तो काफी नहीं है भारत के परिवार के लिए. We are a multicultural, multi-diverse and multilinguistic country, and that should be our identity. It should not be reduced to just one Hindi, one Bollywood. ऐसा तो 21st century में नहीं चलेगा.
let
And
me
that's only
say,
just one submission. We have from Vivekananda to Narendra Modi ji saying Tamil is our pride and Tamil is one of the oldest languages.
No, this is
See,
not
both
about
Tamil
Tamil
and
versus
Sanskrit
Hindi.
belong to us. So why do we have this opposition to Hindi?
No,
Because
let me
Hindi
say
is
one
spoken
thing.
all over
Opposition to
India.
Hindi.
You speak such good Hindi. You speak such good Hindi.
हाँ, मैं
So why do
बिल्कुल
we?
हिंदी बहुत अच्छी तरह बात कर सकती हूँ, मगर ये तो हिंदी वर्सेस तमिल की बात ही नहीं है. दिस इज नॉट अबाउट दैट. दिस इज नॉट अबाउट अपोजिंग हिंदी एट ऑल. आई लव हिंदी. हम लोग तो हिंदी को प्यार करते हैं, मान करते हैं, अभिमान करते हैं, हिंदी फिल्म्स को एंजॉय करते हैं. बट this is about Hindi becoming the identity of India, and that would be an injustice to the whole concept of the Union of India.
okay,
We are bigger than one language.
I think it's an important point. Now, let me just, Shahzad Poonawalla, I'm coming out to you. See, my grandfather was a Kannadiga. My grandmother, my dadi, she was from Kashmir. She spoke Hindustani and Kashmiri. My grandfather and my grandmother and all of us, we were linked by one language, that was English.
Exactly.
And we celebrated the diversity in our home. Maybe we gave so much primacy to English that I've ended up not being very fluent in either Kannadiga or Hindi. So I'm working in the English language press. But I don't know what would have happened, because my grandfather, very patriotic man. He served the Indian state as governor. He served the Indian government as Secretary to the Government of India. He was an ICS officer. You couldn't take India out of his soul. So, Shahzad Poonawalla, I don't think at this level, and you're seeing the reaction, that pushing one language is going to really unify the country.
It's going to divide the country.
So Mr. Poonawalla, how do you respond to Kasturi Shankar? And of course, I'll bring in Mohandas Pai right after that.
Rahul, first of all, let me tell you that I myself come from Maharashtra and my mother tongue is the Prime Minister comes from Gujarat. His mother tongue is Gujarati, and if you've often heard Prime Minister, whenever he visits any part of the country, different parts of the country, his opening and his closing remarks are usually in the local language or the language of that state or region. Look, Rahul, we have 22 official Indian languages. And I would say we don't have any national language, but yes, the Indian languages, we don't have a national bhasha, but we have a national bhavna, and all of those 22 official languages encapsulate the national bhavna. And that is what we're talking about. This is not about imposition, it is about integration. And that integration can happen only when the Indian languages are promoted and pushed forward, because the national bhavna will only be coming from the 22 official languages, which are Indian languages. That can encapsulate the Indian national bhavna. Now, let me give you an example. Look, first of all, the same constitution and constituent assembly and the founders of our constitution, they who came up with 22 official languages, also said that English language should be there for official use for 15 years, and after that it should move on to other languages, including the official languages, Hindi language. It was in 1949, no BJP was around when Hindi Divas was declared. It was in 1963 Official Languages Act came about, which talks about the liberal use of Hindi in various organizations and departments. It is in 1976 the Parliamentary Committee on Official Languages was formed, and by the way, the 2011 Parliamentary Committee signed off by whom? Mr. Chidambaram, a Tamilian. You know what it says? It says that students should be given the right to write their exams in Hindi. There should be promotion of Hindi in railways. There should be more spend on advertisements in Hindi by the government and state governments, not on English advertisements. It talks about promotion of Hindi in various other departments and organizations across the board. And that time it was done. That time it was not imposition, it was integration. But today, when the same thing is being promoted as per the act, as per the constitutional system that has been created, it suddenly becomes about imposition, and especially at that time when two of our leaders, the Prime Minister and the Home Minister, both belong to a culture of official languages that come from India. They are not products of say a foreign language.
Fair enough.
Foreign country.
Quick response, Mohandas Pai.